Stocks close mixed on Wall Street as the Dow corrects, but the S&P 500 and Nasdaq gain to end a three-day losing streak. Indices, however, are on track to break multi-week winning streak. Asian markets trade lower, while the SGX Nifty indicates a positive start for the Indian market. The Bank of England raises rates by a hawkish 50 basis points to fight stubbornly high inflation in the United Kingdom. Markets in Europe close with losses. A surprise hike by the Bank of England and indications of further hikes by the Fed reignite concerns of slower economic growth and lower oil demand. Crude cracks around 4% to $74 a barrel. The hawkish tone from central banks also sees gold close at a fresh three-month low. The minutes of the last monetary policy meeting pours cold water on any rate cut hopes. All three members and two external members in the committee sound caution on inflation and want to move toward 4%. Only Ashima Goyal says the panel should not allow real rates to go too high. Prime Minister Narendra Modi addresses the U.S. Congress in a historic speech punctuated by multiple standing ovations. Says India will soon be the world's third largest economy. Both leaders also attend the state dinner graced by business personalities including Mukesh Ambani, Anand Mahindra and Google boss Sundar Pichai, among 200 other dignitaries. Hi guys, good morning and welcome to Power Breakfast. I'm Pavitra Parekh. Those are the top headlines that we have for you this morning. There's a lot to track in terms of the global news flow that has come through, and we'll get straight to it. Asian markets are not looking so good this morning. By the way, you have the Shanghai markets and the Taiwanese index, which are shut on account of a holiday. So those markets are not trading. Hang Seng opening after a holiday, and it is opening with sharp cuts. So it's around over 300 points in the red as we kick things off. You have the Nikkei markets, which are perhaps looking the worst this morning. So it's a 430-point cut that we've seen over there. It's actually pretty much in line with what's going on in Hong Kong as well. But of course, this is a market that has rallied a lot already. So do keep that in mind and, see it in that context. Kospi is down 0.8%, straight seeing a cut of around 0.7% as well. So it is a weak start across Asia for the markets that are trading. The SGX Nifty will come up for you, and it is indicating a soft start for our own markets. It's actually moved down now, and like you can see, there's a sharp dip. It is in the red, around 8 points lower is where we're at on the SGX Nifty. So that's what's happening in Asia. But let's also talk about the US market now, because Wall Street ended Thursday's trading session mixed. So the Dow Jones was flat. The S&P 500 was up around 16 points, and the Nasdaq Composite closed with gains of 120 points. But this is also the index which, in the previous trading session had suffered the biggest cut. Now, both the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq, while they snapped a three-day losing streak, all of these indices are for the week still headed for a cut as far as the weekly action goes. But staying with the U.S. markets, let's also listen into what former Dallas Fed President Richard Fisher had to say on the Fed's rate trajectory from here. Hear him out.
Just now, and you listened carefully to Chairman Powell, and you saw what the Bank of England did with 50 basis points, the Canadians, the Australians. There is still a possibility for one or two more. And at a minimum, Scott, they're not going to be cutting rates, in my view, as far as the eye can see into 2024. My guess is they'll just have to hold it where it is. And the reason for that is Powell was very firm, the committee was very firm after the last meeting and in the press conference. 2% is sacrosanct. They're not going to give up on trying to achieve that target.
All right, that is the word coming in from Richard Fisher. But moving on to the last update from our global market wrap this morning, European markets ended Thursday's trading session lower as well. This is following the rate decision that came through in the UK, Switzerland and Norway. So the CAC index was down around 57 points. The German DAX index was down 35, and the FTSE also closed with losses, like you can see, almost 60 points lower over there. Now, the Bank of England surprised markets with a 50 basis points hike, taking the bank's base rate to 5%. What was expected widely was a 25 basis points hike. This is the central bank's 13th consecutive increase that we've seen in this cycle. Now, the MPC also hinted at more rate hikes going forward. And this is, of course, owing to the high inflation that we're seeing in the region. Meanwhile, sticking with the region, we also had Turkish central bank, which hiked rates, and that has now gone up to 15% from 8.5% previously. There was a big hike that came through, and this is actually the first hike in Turkey in 26 months and the first policy decision after President Erdogan's re-election as well. So That is all of the action that came through. A lot of central bank action, and on the back of that, you had most of the European markets which did end with some cuts. Let's also listen in to what former Goldman Sachs chief economist Jim O'Neill had to say on the inflation in the UK as well as the Bank of England's policy decision.
If you actually look at core inflation as to its historic purpose as a lead indicator where overall inflation's going, in the UK it appears to be going up. And to be honest, as somebody that is so immersed in pulling the weeds around and throughout all this data, on one level it's a bit hard to really understand why it's just so bad for us. It's yet another sign of the ongoing consequences of Brexit. It's pretty challenging, and I have to say, as easy as it is to criticise the Bank of England, I'm also quite sympathetic because, of course, the global leading indicators of inflation all over the place are indeed slowing sharply. And not to be completely ignored, monetary growth in the UK is also now very weak.
All right, that is some global market opinion that we are tracking, and that's everything that we're looking at as far as global markets go. But let's now talk about how all of these cues really impact our own markets as well as the domestic cues that we should track in today's trading session. We have Mangalam, Sonal and Surbhi here to prep us up for this trading session. Guys, a very good morning to all of you. Sonal, we've made it to Friday. The key question is Nifty going to evade those all-time highs yet again? But take us through everything we should watch ahead of that.
You know, Pavitra, the biggest cue, it's a Friday. So let's enjoy that first. As far as the market setup is concerned, it's a mixed handover that we have received from the Wall Street, while Dow was lower, flat with some negative bias. But S&P and NASDAQ, they actually snapped their 3-day losing streak as well. Technology stocks were definitely in focus, and Apple hit a record high in yesterday's trading session for the US market. So that is in focus. If we talk about the Asian markets, they are again largely mixed. We have Taiwan, which is shut for a holiday, Hang Seng, which is lower by 1.5%, but Nikkei is higher today. So mixed picture again from the Asian screen. Bank of Japan, that is, or Japanese inflation, that is in focus because that came in at 3.2% versus an estimate of 3.4%, but it is still higher than Bank of Japan's target of 2%. You spoke about how a Bank of England hiked rates as well, so central bank action continues to take the center stage as well. For our own markets, we did see a lot of volatility yesterday, and Nifty did end at the day's low yesterday after just being 1 point away from record high levels as well. So that is the texture of Indian markets currently, 85 points lower there. Sensex was down 363 points from its record high of 63,602, and mid-cap index, it snapped its 8-day winning streak. So yes, there was some fall from the highs yesterday. Nifty got support from the HDFC twins, HDFC Bank and HDFC that is, but Reliance Industries was a drag yesterday. The immediate support on Nifty is at 18,757. That's the immediate one, and we'll see lower levels from there as well. Nifty Bank has been consolidating at 20-day exponential moving average. That has been the level on Nifty Bank for a long time. In terms of flows, FII sold after buying. They sold around 693 crore rupees, while DIs bought 219 crore rupees. So we'll have to see, because SGX Nifty is indicating that the start could be muted to some red, 14 points lower there. We'll have to see whether there's some recovery or we also end the way we ended yesterday.
All right, that is what everyone is watching. Sonal, thanks a lot for getting us all of those cues. Let's also talk about the stocks that you should watch for in today's trading session. We have Surbhi standing by with the entire list. Hi, Surbhi.
Hi, Pavitra. So, firstly, obviously, IT companies will be in focus as Accenture has declared its results. The Q3 results were close to the top end of the guidance. The management does expect the outsourcing revenue to grow in double digits, but they don't see any green shoots in the demand recovery. So, there's a cautious read-through for the Indian IT companies. Next on my list is Coforge. They acquired 20% equity shares in Coforge Business Process Solutions for 337 crores. Now the 60% was acquired in April 2021. LIC Housing Finance, the board approves T. Adhikari as the Chief Operating Officer with effect from June 22nd. BPCL, the board is going to consider a fund raise via rights issue on June 28th. And lastly on my list is HBL Power Systems. The board is going to consider approving a proposal of a slump sale for 2 of their product lines on June 28th.
Okay, Surbhi, thanks a lot for getting us that entire list of stocks. We're going to watch for all of these in the trading session today. Finally, it's over to Mangalam, who's looking at all of the cues from the futures and options space. Mangalam, what are you tracking?
Well, good morning. Yesterday we went just within 1 point of a fresh all-time high. So there is a fair amount of supply at higher levels. And yesterday's decline was also on account of expiry day blues. And that's largely because the street was positioned for an expiry above that 18,800 mark. But the minute we fell below that 18,800 mark, all those who had written those puts had to unwind their positions, and we ended at the low point of trade. The mid-cap index was the worst performing index in yesterday's session. The cash market flows, the FI sold about 693 crores, the DIs bought 219 crores. There were a couple of large trades as well, so as a result of which these flows were muddled. But in index futures, there was net purchase of 325 crores, and the FI long exposure is just around that 53% mark. The SGX Nifty is indicating a mild dip at the open. Let's see whether that gets bought into or not, and largely because the Nifty support is that 18,650 to 18,700 mark, and at the same time, the resistance continues to be placed between 18,850 to 18,900 itself. For the Nifty Bank, it is essential that it crosses that 20-day moving average and sustains above that for any further meaningful up move out there. The key to watch next week is the June series expiry. So up until then, all movements would be triggered towards that itself. And we have the 18,800 mark, which seems to be a bit of a fulcrum. So 18,800 call as well as the 18,800 put. Both of them come up for you on the screen. As you see, have a combined premium of close to around 200 rupees. So the street is playing for a very broad range of 18,600 to around 19,000 on the way up. In terms of stocks, watch out for RBL. It's entered F&O ban yesterday. And also keep an eye out on Delta Corp and HAL. Both of them exited F&O ban yesterday.
All right, Mangalam, thanks a lot for laying out all of those cues for us as we get into this fresh trading session. But with that, let's also bring in the cues from the commodity markets, because there's been a lot of action over there. Oil prices fell around 4%. This after interest rate hikes like we were talking about from central banks in Europe weighed on prices. Brent is trading at around $74 a barrel now, 73.8 right now. And meanwhile, gold also fell another 1%, and it's hit a fresh 3-month low following hawkish global central bank commentary. So that is some important action that came through from the commodity markets. But with that, we're going to get into a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about all of the latest updates from Prime Minister Modi's visit to the US. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're still tuned into Power Breakfast, and let's now bring you updates on Prime Minister Modi's state visit to the U.S. The Prime Minister was accorded a 19-gun salute at the White House on the third day of his U.S. visit, and both the Prime Minister Modi as well as President Biden in their brief addresses outside the White House invoked the democratic values of the two nations and vowed to work together for global good, world peace and stability. Prime Minister Modi said that both India and the United States are committed to working together for world peace, while President Biden said that decisions made by the two nations will have an impact for future generations and for several decades to come as well. After holding the bilateral talks, the two leaders also held a joint address on the India-US relations and said that the talks really focused on the need to develop new ways of cooperation between the two countries. Let's listen in to what they had to say.
America is India's biggest trade partner. We have decided to resolve long pending trade related issues and make a new beginning by increasing our cooperation in fields such as artificial intelligence, semiconductors, space, quantum, and telecom. We are creating a strong and futuristic partnership.
Indian Americans of every background and faith, representing the full diversity of India, are pursuing their American dream while maintaining deep connections for their Indian heritage and families. That makes us all stronger. That is a cornerstone of this essential partnership between India and the United States. And that is why I know the friendship between our nations is only going to grow as we face the future together.
All right, those are the leaders of both of the countries, but it was also a day full of state engagements for Prime Minister Modi. In a historic moment, Prime Minister Modi delivered an hour-long address to the U.S. lawmakers at a joint session of the U.S. Congress. He discussed several key points, emphasizing India's commitment to climate goals, women empowerment, the fight against terrorism, and other important issues as well.
When I speak about India's approach to the world, the United States occupy a special place. I know. Our relations are of great importance to all of you. Every member of this Congress has a deep interest in it. When defense and aerospace in India grow, industries in the state of Washington, Arizona, Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, and Pennsylvania thrive.
All right, that is the word from Prime Minister Modi. Now, President Biden's state dinner with Prime Minister Narendra Modi was also attended by an impressive gathering of over 200 guests. The guest list encompassed a diverse range of individuals, including government officials, business leaders, fashion designers, and prominent Indian Americans. Distinguished industrialist Mukesh Ambani, along with Neeta Ambani, also graced the grand dinner. The other dignitaries at the event included Anand Mahindra, Sundar Pichai, Satya Nadella, and Indra Nooyi, along with Apple CEO Tim Cook. And other notable attendees were star athletes, a Hollywood director, and government officials on both sides as well. So that is the roundup of Prime Minister Modi's day 3 of his visit to the United States. But with that, we do need to get into a short break. There's lots more news and updates coming up for you in just a bit, so stay with us. Hey guys, welcome back. Now some more important news that we're looking at. The minutes of the last monetary policy meeting has poured cold water on any rate cut hopes. All 3 RBI members and 2 external members in the committee have sounded caution on inflation and want to move towards that 4% target. Only Ashima Goyal has said that the panel should not allow real rates to go too high. So that is some important news that we wanted to bring you up to speed with as well. But as we wind down on the show, there's some heartbreaking news coming in as well. Search for the missing Titan submersible that was carrying 5 people to the Titanic wreckage site has ended after evidence of catastrophic implosion has been found. Members of a massive international search operation found debris in the general area of the Titanic, and it was confirmed to contain parts of the Titan sub. As per the U.S. Coast Guard, the Titanic submersible suffered a catastrophic loss of pressure that imploded the vessel, killing all 5 passengers aboard. There has, however, been no update on recovering any of the crew as of now, so we're still waiting for information on that. And on board was the CEO of Ocean Gate, which operates the Titan, along with British businessman Hamish Harding, British-Pakistani businessman Shahzada Dawood, as well as his son and former French Navy diver. All right, so extremely unfortunate news coming in over there. But with that, we're going to have to wind down on this edition of Power Breakfast with the news that most of the Asian markets, all of them which are trading right now, are seeing some cuts. The SGX Nifty is down around 26 points. Thanks for tuning in. We are Bazaar Morning Call up in 2.